Good morning. It's 4:30 in the morning. Well, my wife and I went to the hospital yesterday because I had enough. I was sick and tired and I just wanted to get an answer. We spent 10 hours waiting at the hospital. They did blood work. They checked my vitals. They checked everything physically. They also came back to me with the results with the CT scan, which is normal. So physically, I'm fine. So he referred me to a neurologist because he believes it's the nerve thing, which I truly believe it is anyway. I thought that the whole time. The original diagnosis was vestibular neuritis, but it's just some kind of nerve problem back here, which is pressing on my head and stuff and causing the dizziness and keeps me dizzy all the time, whatever. I look at it this way. You know, God will bring me through this. If it's a trial, which it is, of course, it's a trial. We all suffer trials. But He'll bring me through. I just gotta, ride it out. And fight it as much as I can. Be as active as I can, no matter what. It can be debilitating, it can be disabling, but God is gonna grace me with the strength to get through this. I thank you folks for being there for me, and I thank my beautiful wife for being there for me and being beside me no matter what, and believing when I tell her that I'm suffering this, because she can see it anyway. I've lost all kind of energy in the last 8 days. Energy level has been horribly low, and I hate that. What is it, because of the season? No, it's because of this dizzy crap. Anyway, enough of that. Okay, I'm going to continue this article that I was originally reading here. What was the name of this article? I don't know. That which is above, right. Okay, so grace, our guiding star. How has the Lord dealt with us? He has not merely been kind and forgiving, but above all, gracious and gracious. Grace does not get, but gives. Grace does not condemn, but condones. Grace does not hinder, but helps. Grace does not find fault, but freely bestows its favor. No matter what we are or what we have done, we can always be sure of sufficient grace from our adorable Lord. Oh, that we could count upon the same consideration from those who are His. Oh, that we would show the same grace to all who are recipients of His favor. Love, the tie of maturity. With whatever else the young humanity may be clothed, it should always wear over all the magic mantle of love, the ties that bound together. The sections of the old humanity also divided these from one another. Descent from Abraham united some, yet severed them from the rest. But love makes no divisions, no separations, hence it is the bond that binds abidingly and abolishes all dividing barriers. It is God's love, expressed in terms of grace, which has united us to Him, and it is the same love which will unite us to one another. The arbitration of peace. Christ has made peace. In Him and through Him all cause for strife and dissension has been done away. He has made peace between us and God when we were enemies. He has made peace between the circumcision who were near and the uncircumcision who were far from Him. In the days to come, He will be the Prince of Peace. During His reign upon the earth, there will be no wars upon the earth, no armies, no soldiers on the land, or sea, or in the air. So even now, in Him, all cause for contention is unknown. Dissension among the saints should always be settled by an appeal to this peace. Love should wield all who are in Christ into one, and peace should preserve the unity of love. Be thankful. One of the most elementary demands upon the creature is thankfulness. It is because men were not thankful that God had given them over, that their heart is darkened. Romans 1:21. Not indeed as a punishment for their ingratitude, but rather to introduce a process by means of which mankind will learn by their lack to appreciate the gifts of God. It is difficult to see how anyone who has even a dim apprehension of his place in Christ should not overflow in gratitude. Yet it is well for us continually to remind our hearts to bring their adoring response and lay it at the feet of Him who hungers for the homage of all the hearts He has created. Teaching, admonishing, and singing. All conduct depends upon a knowledge of God and His Christ, as found in His Word. Therefore, the one who desires to walk acceptably should make his heart a home for the Word of Christ, in such a redundant measure that philosophy will be replaced by real wisdom, and ritual by genuine heartfelt homage and worship. The secret of Christ is the sum of all philosophy and the goal of all wisdom. It should be the basis of our teaching and admonition, along with all the rich grace which accompanies it, and then it will overflow in affectionate response to God in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. Do all in the name. The secret of Christ unfolds to us the great truth that God will fulfill all His will through His anointed. He was the medium of creation and will be the means of reconciliation. All is through Him, even as all is out of God. All the divine activities during the eons are under His control. Hence, all that we do or say should be in His name. It is the incense which makes all acceptable. Even our thanks should not ascend to God without its savor. Subjection. Subjection is one of the great lessons of the eons. The future does not consist in the self-assertion and independence of God's creatures, but in their subjection to Him. 1 Corinthians 15:28. Even the Son Himself, the great King, and the head of the whole universe, will resign all rule and take the place of subjection. It is the only normal and natural condition for the creature. There can be no ultimate perfection so long as all are not in delightful and loving subjection to the Creator. Hence, it is one of the chief lessons of the eons to learn and to be subject, each in his own sphere. Even masters are reminded that they have a master above them. In these degenerate days, there is a strong tendency to throw off all yokes and to demand a spurious liberty and independence. This generally accompanies the repudiation of God and the rejection of the lordship of Christ. Where men will not bow in subjection to God, it follows that the authority of the husband is weakened, that children will not obey their parents, and that workers will not take their proper place beneath their superiors. Among the saints, subjection to God should be emphasized, as well as to one another, for it rather than a theoretical liberty brings blessing and happiness. The eons are a training school for the future, and are intended to teach not merely the creature's dependence upon God, but the insubordination leads to suffering and even death. Herein we see the reason for our social institutions and the various ranks of mankind. Theoretically, we imagine that mankind would be happier if all were on a level and there were no subordination. So they would. If all were subject to God, so they would if all were subject to God. So it will be after the eons are past. But until then, subjection in God's means is of preparing for that blessed ultimate in the various relations of life. We must learn to be subject, each in our sphere. There is no call upon us to rule, even though this is implied in the subjection of others. The husband is not told to lay down the law, but to love. Parents are not told to be strict with their children, but to refrain from vexing them. Masters are not exhorted to domineer over their slaves, but to be just and equitable in dealing with them. The grace we have received will help us to bow in acquiescent subjection, and also greatly soften the severity and harshness usually associated with human authority. Man's inhumanity to man has become a proverb. It has its place in God's purpose as a contrast to God's loving rule. It is our privilege to reflect this in our earthly relationships, as well as our own affectionate subjection to Him in the consummation. Conclusion. Colossians is colossal in its scope. Written indeed by the apostle of the nations to them, yet it deals with the secret of Christ, which is not confined to us or to the present administration, but reaches back to the creation and on to the ultimate reconciliation of all. The Son of God's love and his activities from the commencement to the consummation, filling the earth and the heavens, bringing all back to God's heart. Such is the background of this epistle. From these transcendent verities, follow the truth for us and for today. His high heavenly honors he shares with us, having made us complete in him. Hence we turn our gaze from the earth to that above. Oh, that God would open our hearts to receive and revel in these revelations, how these would deliver them from their bonds, how these would illuminate their darkness, how they would outgrow the immature conceptions of Christianity, which stunt and dwarf their spirits. Here we have the fullest knowledge, the highest wisdom, the greatest glory, the very pinnacle of God's revelation. Oh, that God would open the eyes of his saints. Alas, as a whole, they reject his glories in place of receiving them. Most of them oppose his blessings in place of believing them. But thanks be to God, the time is coming when all will find in him their all. The day is approaching when God will see in him, who is God's complement, one competent to reconcile to God all that is now estranged. Article done by A. Enoch. I thank you folks for bearing with me. Thank you folks for listening to me go on and on and on about my own personal crap. You know, I thought that yesterday after the hospital. I thought I'd come out of the hospital and I thought, well, I must be completely loony then. This is all in my head. It's all just a dizzy fantasy. And it's crap. It's real. But nobody sees that. No doctors on this earth can diagnose it, whatever. You know, what I say is I trust in God alone. And I mean alone. Next time I go to a hospital, I better be on a slab and I better be out cold. Because I won't go there and wait 10 hours to get a diagnosis that I got originally at the beginning. I guess I'm just not patient yet. God is teaching me patience. You'll get through, Rob. And that's like all of us. Okay, our struggles are so tedious and so long. How the hell long do you get to suffer it? This is our protest, I guess. Is it a protest? No, not really. From my vantage point, it's not a protest. I just want to come through. And I want to get better. And in the sense of physically, I'm fine. But better, whatever. So this is how God teaches us through these sufferings and trials. No kidding. Whatever they may be. I love you all. It is Monday. Another week ahead of us. So Lord willing, we'll make it through this week. Lord willing, his grace will sustain us and keep us. I pray that it keeps all of you and keeps you steadfast to that which is above. I love you all. Have a wonderful day.